Good morning, everybody, and welcome in to Keytown Sports on this glorious Monday morning, August 25th, 2024. We had some college football over the weekend, and I want to talk about FSU and Georgia Tech. Now, what the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets did, they went in there, got the job done, just do it, and they did it. Now, the Florida State Seminoles, they got stung, and stunned by Georgia Tech. Now, I noticed when it came to Georgia Tech, starting off the game, the defense was a little shaky. DJ Ualele, he had a good first drive. He had 5 passes the first drive. He went down there, scored a touchdown, and then all of a sudden, Mike Norvell, he wanted to try a surprise trick, and he got the 2 point conversion. And so I'm looking at this like, okay, it's 8-0. So what are the Yellow Jackets going to do? The Yellow Jackets went down the field, scored a touchdown themselves, and then both defenses started to take way. And plus, basically after that, the defenses had this game. Both defenses were great, but that's only the story that they want to tell you. But when it comes to Florida State, they really didn't do anything. And plus, as far as like when it comes to rushing yards, Georgia Tech almost had 190 rushing yards on them. And I'm going to give you the list of names. Jamal Hayes, 11 carries, 75 yards. Haynes King, the quarterback, 15 carries, 54 yards. Chad Alexander, 7 carries, 41 yards. Eric Singleton Jr., 1 carry, 10 yards. Malik Rutherford, 1 carry, 9 yards. Zach Payron, 1 carry, 1 yard. So they couldn't stop the running game. There was a lot of short yardage situations in the second half. Florida State failed to step up to the plate and deliver a stop for DJ Ualele and the FSU offense. Now, as far as for Georgia Tech, like I said in my prediction video, my prediction show, Georgia Tech came on strong towards the end of last season. They almost went to overtime with the Georgia Bulldogs last season. And then for them to come into this season and all of a sudden beat the top 10 team in the so-called top 10 team in the country and prove all of the experts wrong, that was great. Now, there is one thing that I want to say when it comes to Florida State. If DJ Ugalele still plays like this, it's going to be a tough season for the almighty Florida State Seminoles. Now, before this game, before the Georgia Tech game, a lot of people had Florida State going to the college football playoff and possibly even winning the championship. But one thing that Florida State has in common, the last 2 games were against teams that play in the state of Georgia, and they have failed to win versus both of them. Now, they failed to even put up a fight against the Georgia Bulldogs, but it was a lot of it was a lot of players that opted out of that game, so we're not even thinking about that game no more. But Georgia Tech, they was supposed to be a team this year that it's supposed to be a rebuilding year, a improvement year. But for them to knock off the top 10 team in the country, it's not going to be an easy road for anybody that plays Georgia Tech. And another thing about this, Florida State, They are between a rock and a hard place right now because the ACC conference champion gets home field advantage for that first playoff game. Now, since Florida State already lost, they behind the eight ball. Now, this coming weekend, they are going to play Boston College. Boston College, coming into this year, they not going to be a pushover like they've been the past 10, 15 years. It's not going to be an easy win for Florida State. That's even if they can start fast and finish fast. But what I want to tell you, there's a few more stats that I want to get into. It is the one where Florida State went for it on fourth down. It was multiple times, it was multiple times where they went for it on fourth down. It was 3 times where they went for it on fourth down, and you know me. When you go for it on fourth down, that tells me that you are either desperate or don't have confidence in your kicker. Now, we all know that Florida State got one of the best kickers in college football. He made a 52-yard field goal in the first quarter, and then he made a 59-yard field goal going into half. So they don't have any wavering of confidence when it comes to their kicker. But this was just straight desperation by Mike Norvell. Even on third down, their third down offense, they were 5 of 12 for third down. FSU was. And on fourth down, their fourth down offense, they was 2 of 3. But when it comes to FSU's offense, you got to look at DJ Uiagalelei and look at his stats. Even though that he was 19 of 27 for 193 yards, the air yards, they said, on his passes were 0.1 yards. So he was just throwing it right at the line of scrimmage, and then everybody else was taking off. So there are some questions that I've been hearing over the last, I would say, 36 to 48 hours. Is DJ Uiagalelei going to be able to carry the offense like Jordan Travis did last season? I'm just saying, you only got one chance to make a first impression. And what we saw Saturday, it might not be the type of season that Florida State fans envision. It might not be that. And plus, I'm hearing before this game, they wanted to emphasize the run more. But when you only have 98 yards rushing, you are not going to be able to keep running the ball and winning games if you only average 98 yards in throughout the regular season. And plus, since Jordan Travis was there last season and he was able to carry the offense like he did, Lord knows Jordan Travis carried FSU last season. He was throwing the ball a whole lot more than DJ Uiagalelei was throwing it on Saturday. Now, when we see the FSU schedule, they have a conference loss. That's going to knock them back. Then they also have Clemson, Miami, and also Boston College, which is coming up next. They're going to have tough games coming up. Boston College, that is not a pushover. That is not a layup game like it has been in the past few seasons. So Florida State, they got a lot to take care of. They got a lot to get under control before they play Boston College. As far as the so-called experts saying that Florida State had one of the best run defenses in college football, a run defense does not allow 190 rushing yards in the first game of the season, let alone 75 yards rushing in a quarter. And that's exactly what the Florida State Seminoles allowed in the first quarter. 75 rushing yards in the first quarter, and Georgia Tech ended up with 190 yards rushing throughout the game, at the end of the game. Now, there will be a huge shakeup in these rankings. Florida State is not going to be number 10. At best, they might be number 18 or 19. Who knows? But all in all, this was the type of college football game that every college football fan wanted on Saturday, and we got it. I just want to tell other teams that are facing Georgia Tech throughout the season, it ain't going to be an easy game for you. Georgia Tech's defense, they are coming. Georgia Tech's offense, they are only going to improve. And the head coach, Brett Kelly, he is going to be one of the coaches of the year in college football when Georgia Tech keep playing games like this, because Georgia Tech, they have the type of team and the type of offensive line that can manhandle some of the best powerhouses in college football, just like Florida State. Now, Florida State, you still got a chance to make it to the college football playoff, but you cannot lose too many more games. I don't see a team at the end of the season, I don't see a team that has lost 3 or 4 games being it. No, excuse me, I'm not even gonna say that, because we're gonna have a couple teams that have lost 3 games that get into the college football playoff. I am not going to see anybody with at least 4 or 5 losses get into the college football playoff. So, Florida State, you don't have too much gray area left. And with that, that is my reaction to FSU versus Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. College football is starting this year, and it started on Saturday. There is a lot more games that I'm going to get into later on in the week. Saturday, I just talked about Georgia a few moments ago in this show. Georgia's playing Clemson. I am going to give y'all the odds and the point spread on that game Friday. And with that, those are my reactions to college football week 0 of the 2024 college football season. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Click the notification bell to get notified of all of my reaction videos, shows, community tabs, and other content. And remember, one last thing. Remember, the key is always on time. Also, go over to TikTok and follow my other show, Key City Sports. And with that, one last thing. Remember, the key is always on time.